Hello, Megan.
Hello, Michelle.
Oh, welcome to the Spicy Brain Podcast. Where we are neurovating.
We are
Let's start that
neurovating.
over. Woo.
I like that a lot. We are navigating.
Where we are navigating neurodiversity with curiosity, joy, and
Radical acceptance. High kick.
I like how that keeps changing. Your radical acceptance. It's like now there's like a little like, you know what I mean? Like a little bit of. I think that's fun.
It's been there. It's just that the microphone wasn't picking it up for a little while. So now it's like I've been working with them. Like, hey guys, can we make sure that like auditory noises come in because like I make a lot of them. Okay.
So welcome if you're new. We're so happy that you're joining us. We definitely have sort of a theme to our podcast where we usually are looking at a book. We're right now looking at the Essential Guide to Raising Complex Kids, and we kind of go through and process the chapter together in real time oftentimes. So you'll hear us kind of trying to figure things out as we go along. And then we're usually digging into that brain of Megan's or mine. One of our neurospiciness usually comes out. And then we try to come up with strategies, although that is not always what we're able to do because, we're not experts
We're
on
just
this. Just sisters. Absolutely. So, and if you're joining us again, we just appreciate you guys so much. We really have seen such a growth in people listening and sharing it with others. But the other thing is that we've gotten so much out of our conversations with you. So we oftentimes have people giving us information back or helping us to navigate this world of neurodiversity. We have focused a lot on ADHD. We're starting to kind of look at sensory things a little bit more as well. So you'll kind of hear us kind of navigate through that, but that's sort of an area that we're kind of interested in as well too now.
Like we wanted to ultimately go through everything, but we needed to understand my brain first before we could, move on to the other things. And I think that that's like such an important lesson for me. It's like figure my own stuff out and then I can help others maybe.
Maybe. We don't know. Who knows?
I can bring information to others.
I think it helps from people who've talked to me, it helps them to know just how vulnerable you usually are on these and you're willing to express and share things that maybe sometimes in TikTok world is, or people have it sort of pre-digested for us. And so I think they like that you're sort of kind of showing how you're figuring it out as you're going along. And and me too.
Yeah,
me too. I'm learning a lot about my own brain as well.
That's always been my criticism of social media in general is that it just, you're only seeing one snippet of people's lives and it's usually the curated happy one. And for me, like, that's just not my existence. And like, I don't think I've ever had a Pinterest day or like a, Instagram day. Like I just, I'm lucky if I can like get out of bed most days. So I've always just wanted to be open and honest, like with where I am. And I don't know, especially with all the AI going on, like, not knowing what's real or not anymore. It's like, okay, just have like a normal person talking to you and messing up and being super messy. Like it just makes me feel better to know that like I'm not the only one who's messy.
It's true. And I think what's helped me on all of this, and we'll talk a little bit about it, this book particularly has helped me because obviously I'm a parent of a kid with complex issues. And then when she says complex issues, it could be behavioral or it could be metabolic. And we have both in our family. So we've got the things that are happening cognitively that are going on. We've got some ADHD, we've got some anxiety, we've got some like peppered with some sensory stuff. We've got, things with gluten and dairy and all of that going on. So I think these are issues that generally are not childhood issues is usually what they say in this, like
nowadays,
when they're talking about complex issues. And so it's one of the things as parents is like trying to figure out how do you help your kid to navigate their adult world. And you've really taken it from the standpoint of how do you help your inner child navigate, how do you parent your inner child, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes you had these issues and you didn't find ways that were particularly healthy or productive to be able to deal with them. And so you're now going back and trying to figure that out.
And we're always just changing. So like what's the different season of life? And I think that's one of the challenges
Yeah.
when you're parenting a kid. Like there's just not time to really explain like, okay, son, you are now 6 years old, so you're going to be having these milestones. You're just like keeping up with it, right? And I think as you get to be an adult, it's like hard to recognize like, oh, there's different seasons of life. And like I'm just now starting to go through the one where like my skin is starting to like, you know, get really crepey and change. And it's like, okay, this is a new season and I have to like work through that, you know? And so it's like
Right.
all of these things you're like, we're constantly changing. And I think, I don't know if maybe it was just like our family, but I think in general, like the world has a hard time with people changing. Like,
Any change.
why do so many people get facelifts? Because they want to look the
Yeah.
same. They never want to change. You know, it's like, there's like this weird thing of like not accepting that things will be different. And like I feel for all these younger generations now who are like, oh my gosh, like once I hit 18, I'm toast. Like I'm
I'm
old.
over the
And you're
hill.
like,
I know.
"Wha- uh,
What do you
oh
mean?
honey, yeah, maybe for social media you are, but like honey, like what?" So it's
You're
yeah, I'm always just hoping that we can like be open and honest and just talk about stuff.
Absolutely. And I think this chapter specifically is really focusing on where do you start
Mm,
parenting? You know, where do you start with things if you're feeling overwhelmed? You're feeling like sort of everything's out of control. And one of the things that I wanted to kind of bring up was how complex it is to parent in general, right? I mean, just to parent any kid,
yeah.
there's the different developmental stages, so you're constantly learning
Mm-hmm.
a new stage of life with kids, right? So there's the early years that they're little tiny babies, they have difficulty expressing themselves and telling you what's going on, and then you have toddlers, and then you get into the early school years, you know, there's play dates and there's family dinners and there's all these expectations, and then you're probably working as
Yeah.
well. And it's really, you know, it can be taxing for anybody, even
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have a kid with any complex issues. But when you have kids with complex issues, I think it stretches you even a little further,
Yeah.
because you oftentimes have the behaviors you're dealing with, right? So bouncing off of things, losing things, meltdowns, you know, clinging to you, maybe like overly, you know, not overly, but like needing you there all the time. Um,
Playing with someone's earrings, you know, I don't know where that could come from. It's such an oddly specific thing. I
yeah,
love
Megan would
mom.
always just sit next to her mom and like, if she had dangly earrings, just kind of like play with them. And mom finally, I mean, mom's very
Why
patient.
wear earrings that are dangly if you don't want them to be dangled? Duh. She just,
So that speaks to the fact that oftentimes kids with complex issues annoy people,
guys, I'm
right?
44 and I still do it to her. I still can't help it. I'm like, it doesn't go away.
No, no. And I think also there's extra stuff you have to do. So you have more meetings with
Yeah.
the school. You have more people calling you because there's something happened. You have to oftentimes go to the play dates because you're worried about your kid navigating the social world, right? And
Yeah.
oftentimes, you know,
And
you
you've
might
also
have to
got,
change every light bulb or change the
right.
paint because their sensory stuff is whatever, you know, so you're figuring things out a lot with them too.
And you've got the added societal BS that you have to like all
Mm,
the shoulds that
mm,
people are telling you like your kid should be doing this and this is what should be
yeah.
happening and like the stress of like well my kid's not doing that and are they okay and you know so there's like just so many facets to it that are it's hard enough being a parent but then being a
Yeah.
parent of like an extra special kid is even harder.
Yeah, and I remember when we found out that Josh had the gluten allergy, and I think it was really more wheat for him than gluten. We
Mm-hmm.
figured out later, but still, every single think about it, every party at school,
Yep.
right? So I finally got to the point where I was
Cupcakes.
able to leave, yeah, cupcakes and all the things he couldn't have, pizza parties, you know, all these things that you just kind of don't think about as a parent if you don't have a kid who has some sort of food sensitivity. And then once you do have that, if the school is good and helpful, that's nice. They let me keep things in the freezer, for example, so that in case I missed something, you know, that
Mm.
they knew. But I was forever leaving work to go get food to get him so that he could feel part of things, right? It was
Yeah.
important to me at that time. So it can be really challenging. And I think what it leads to a lot of times, at least from my perspective, and I don't know how you feel about this in terms of like parenting the inner child, but there's a lot of worry that comes sometimes with it. Some of it's from the shoulds, for sure. Like that and people are telling you your kids should be this and they're not. You know, that's not who they are. That's not where they are. But I think there's a lot of, for me over the years, of worry about, is he going to make it as an adult? Is he going to be okay? Is it going to work out? Or how are we going to fix this or that or whatever? Like there's a lot of fixing mentality that I had in my mindset before we started doing this podcast. And I think I'm kind of a fixaholic. So I get away from it, and you like help me to kind of come back from my fixaholic ways. And then I'll come back the next week and I'm like, but I got to fix it. And you're like, no, you don't need to fix this. You just need to listen. You just need to be curious. You just need to help him navigate, but you don't need to fix it. And I'm like, oh, right. I don't need to fix it. Right. I don't need to fix it. And like, I have to keep telling myself this, you know, he's 19 now. So I still feel the same. I mean, it's really hard, especially as they're leaving to go to college and do those things. It's really hard to kind of just let go and say, okay, I trust that this kid is an intelligent being and he is going to find his way and he is going to figure out how to parent himself. And I've done enough. I've done good enough that he's going to be all right. And that when he's not, hopefully we have a good enough relationship, he's going to come and tell me, or we're going to have those conversations and work through it together.
It's interesting. It's almost like less about like trusting him, but trusting yourself. Cause like you always told me that like, I just want to be a good enough parent. Like I just want to, I want to do good enough. And so it's like, well, you have to then trust that you did do good enough.
Yeah.
Which is hard, I'm sure. And like,
well,
you know,
because you're like, standing on the precipice of something, especially like he's going to college next year, right? So he's a year older than, and he always would get upset about that at some point. I have never been sad about this, people. Anyone who's like, should I keep my boy or girl back? I'm like, just give, like, where's the fire? Why do we all have to get to school when we're 4.5? But anyway, I have never regretted it because I saw such growth in him between 18 and 19. I mean, between junior year and senior year, I mean, unbelievable what has happened for him developmentally. So I'm not sad that he's going a little bit older, especially because he's ADHD and you know, some of these things have been a little bit more difficult for him. But yeah, it's scary. I mean, it's like I have been this constant thread with him, right? And I've let go definitely more as the years have gone on. Like I don't check in on his homework anymore in the same ways, or I don't, you know, I'm not overseeing a lot of things that I used to oversee, but boy, is it tough. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the fixaholic stuff, like, let's be honest, like, I think that's a societal thing. Cause like, you know, think about all the times I'm like trying to fix you and Josh's issues. Right. So like, you know, like I'm like, okay, Michelle, and you're like, okay, you don't need to fix it. And, but on the other hand of it too, it's like, it's just hard. It's hard like even as an adult with ADHD and parenting myself, like I worry about myself too. Like I worry that like, am I going to get my taxes done this year? And am I going to like I worry like, how am I going to, you know, clean up this house? Like I've been worried. We just moved, you guys. And so like Michelle was lovely enough to come out and help us. And our friend Heather, thank you, Heather, very much for coming to help us both.
She's amazing.
We love you, Heather. And like, I had these great people to help me, but like, you know, we didn't finish it. And so like my fear has been like, am I going to finish it? Like, can I finish it? Do I have the capability to finish it? And, you know, for like the first 4 days, like I didn't do much because I was like sore and I hurt and I was like, no. But then, you know, I'm slowly doing it at my own pace, but it's still like a constant stress on me of like I'm still worried. And I don't think the worry ever goes away. I don't think. I mean, it hasn't yet. You know, I think that's why I was like super anxious and always trying to like make things like, you know, get things done before they were done. I don't know. I was always worried, you know. I'm a worry wart. Brian will tell you that. He's like, you worry about a lot of stuff. I'm like, I know.
No. It's funny though too when you say that. But when you say it too, it's also how important is it?
Yeah.
And is it a should that you're putting on yourself that your house should be a certain way? Or is it that it's a need? You know, it might be a need. I mean, we've talked about the sensory stuff the last podcast. Like maybe you need it to be a certain way so that your brain can relax and so that you can relax and feel comfortable in your home. But the should part of it, I think, is the part that is for me too as a parent, that I think that we have to be a little careful about maybe reframing like, well, what is the expectation we're having for our kid? And is that in our inner child or our home or whatever? And is it realistic
I think
or needed?
Yeah. And I think it's not an and or. I think it's a both, because I do need my house to be quiet in order for my brain to work. But I am shooting on myself with how it should get done. Because like watching you and Heather, you guys were rock stars. And I'm like, I should be able to do this. Like I should be able to like at least do one little thing here and there every single day. And I can't even do one little thing here and there every single day. Or like I have this time, I should be able to do it. I mean, I have time, so I should be able to do it. But like then I'm paralyzed, or you know. And so I think it's like the need is strong. I think it's the how that is where I should on myself.
And like maybe getting help for that part that is hard.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that was interesting. We had a big conversation around that. And I do want to come back to kind of the chapter, but I do want to bring
talk
this
about that.
Like I mean,
conversation ahead of time, because I think that's like such an important part of like, you can do it all. You just can't do it all at the same time at once.
Yeah. And I think in terms of what I'm thinking of, and so maybe we'll see if we're thinking of the same thing, is that I remember before I came out, I said, listen, you know, I want to come and I want to help because I know that unboxing things for you is really, really tough. Like it's not even, it's going to be 2 years before this gets done. Like I just know it. And it wasn't a criticism. It was just a knowing. And I think I've almost come to every place you've ever moved.
I think so,
to help kind of at some point with some stage of the organization.
Except
or
for San Angelo. And that was the one that was like a nightmare.
Oh. I don't think, and I always think that one was, I think that was in Texas. Yeah.
That was the bad one.
Oh.
Because I had just gotten married, you know, I'm like, okay, I got to do it with Brian. And like, we just both were like, what? It was before Brian had his ADHD diagnosis. And yeah, I think that was like the one where it was like, that's where we now know like it would take us over a year, because like it took us like at least a year just to unbox ourselves.
Right. And so I'm like, okay, let's get things unboxed and put away. And Heather, thank goodness, came out. But before I came out, I said, listen, I'm recognizing I am also a certain way. And I need to just unbox and be left alone. Like, and this will be my greatest joy because I'll enjoy myself. I'll weirdly have a great time organizing things and putting things around. Hold on just a second. Okay. That's so funny. He's going to the mall. I'm like, I'm literally podcasting. So
hold on 1 second. That's cute though. He's going to go to the mall.
Has the microphone been wrong the whole time?
No, it when you took your earbuds out, then it changed.
I don't. Okay.
Totally fine.
Okay.
Yep.
What were we saying? I'm sorry. I got completely derailed.
About how you had to ask for, like, you're gonna have like the best time if you just put your headphones in.
Oh yeah. So I remember having to ask you, or not ask you, but tell you, I guess for the first time. Listen, I really actually like unpacking, and I don't know why. Like
I shock for me.
I know. And I'm like, I enjoy it. That process is very therapeutic for me to like take somebody's stuff out and find places for that and do all of that. And so, and I know it isn't for you, but it is for me. But what is not relaxing is having you have a meltdown while I'm unboxing. So like, if you could just go do something you enjoy doing and let me do it by myself, and I'll just put I'll put my AirPods in, I'll listen to my shows, I'll do a thing, and I'll just I'll work all day. Like, and that's fine with me. Um, and it was, I don't know. I thought it was an interesting, you had to go and think about it for a while. Cause I was like, I'm going to just make some decisions too. I'm like, I need you to just let me make some decisions. We can redecide at any time, but I'm just going to make some decisions.
Yeah. I think the first thing was like, it was really helpful for me to know how I like how my spiciness, how that like affects you. So that was really helpful
Mm,
because it's like it
mm,
didn't feel like it was you like putting on me or anything. It was just like, hey, like this is just what I'm needing, and that was really 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 helpful for me. So then I could say, okay,
mm.
great. Sorry, like Daisy is just like doing something with her nose, making some weird noises. It
Yep.
was really helpful for me to be able to hear that. And
Mm-hmm.
then and honestly, I was like, okay, that makes sense. Like I just needed to step away from it to talk to Brian because like I'm a package deal now. And so
Mm-hmm.
I've learned over time that like while it's good for me, it may not be good for him. So I just wanted to
Mm-hmm.
double check with him that like, okay, what do you need during this? Because like I need Michelle just to come in for my stuff and just do this. And then he was able to say, well, I do actually want to undo some unboxing um and so I was able to come back and say like, okay, well here's like, yes, you can any of my stuff like just unbox it. And I said like, are you okay with her unboxing? And we were able to like set some boundaries, so I wasn't just like making a decision for him.
Mm-hmm.
And he was fine with it. He's like, I was like, she would be just happy as putting her headphones on and like just going. And he's like, she would. I was like, I know she would. That's what she told me. He's like, well, okay. I mean, but I still want to help. And I was like, of course she'll still help. She'll tell you what to do when she needs help. But like, you know, she's just better at this. I'm like, me. I'm like, and we had like literally just had a fight the night before because of just like how
Yeah.
hard it is. And
Yeah.
so it really did help. And it was hard to like relinquish control because I've been in my mind like I should be able to do this.
Right.
This should not be this difficult. Like it should not be paralyzing. This should
Mm-hmm.
just I should be able to do this. And also like it it's excruciating for me to do this, so it must be excruciating for everybody else.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I remember because I have scoliosis in my back. I just thought everyone was in pain when they ran during volleyball season. And they're like, no, we feel
Yeah.
fine. I'm like, oh, okay. So it's not the same for you as it is for me. And I think that was the first time I was like able to say that in a way
Yes.
that wasn't like, oh, I'm good at this and you suck at this, because that wasn't the issue. It was just, this is something that I am good at. Can you let me be good at it?
Yeah.
Like, is it okay for me to excel at something differently than what you excel at? And can it help you? Right? Like this thing I'm good
And
at.
you said it would be therapeutic for you too.
Oh,
So it
yeah.
was like I think me understanding the emotional intent that you had, like, because it's
Mm-hmm.
not about you being better at me at something. For me at least, it wasn't about you being better at it than me. It was that like I've never wanted to put you through emotional turmoil.
Mm.
And for me, going through my stuff is emotional turmoil. So
Right.
I think this is why curiosity is such an important part of our podcast and like why we're constantly coming back to it, because like up until that point, I had never been curious as to like what your reaction would be. And so for
Mm.
you to tell me, actually, Megan, it's going to be far worse for me if for
Mm-hmm.
me, it's going to be far worse for me if I have to
Yes.
like handle one of your meltdowns. And I'm like, yes, I know that meltdown. I know exactly what she's talking about. I can pinpoint the moment in
Yeah.
Sandecker when we've had those meltdowns, right? So
Yeah.
to be able to hear that and like, okay, I love you and like, I don't want to be that pause. So either I
Mm-hmm.
have to relinquish control or I have to say, you know what? I don't need your help. You're just coming. You're going to sleep in the room of boxes and we're just going to do stuff outside the house. Like, there would have to have been a different conversation. But I also knew like
Yeah.
I can't do this on my own.
Right.
And I think like over time, like I kind of started relinquishing more and more control to you
Mm-hmm.
and you and Brian, honestly, as like being okay with myself that I'm not good at this and that like I just need to step aside. And I think at one point you told me, Megan, you do things really well for the family. Like I research really well and
Mm-hmm.
I'm great with technology and like there's all these things I do that I can put curtains up. Like I'm there's so many things that I bring to our family, and I need to like honor the things that I'm good at and then say, okay,
Mhm.
I'm checking out from here.
Right. And I think what's interesting about it is what is socially acceptable to not be good at versus what
Yes.
isn't. And I think it's especially I'm gonna say like as women, like culturally, socially raised that we're supposed to be organizers and like keep a household and do all
Mm,
these things. And yet you do the technology and the construction and the things that might be more gender like associated with masculine, right,
mm-hmm.
kind of things potentially. I mean, I don't think that's right, but that's what I feel like we grew up in the 70s and 80s kind of hearing a lot about. So it's interesting, but I think we were able to have this conversation really nicely. And what was cool about it, from thinking about it from a parenting perspective, I mean, obviously I wasn't your parent, but for you parenting yourself, but as a parent, I think about it like you're figuring out, and it's okay that sometimes you need help with something
Yeah.
and that you're allowing that to happen. And that is the part that, as a parent, I now see is probably the biggest gift I could give Josh, is
Mm,
knowing that, like, if you need support with something, that's okay. Like, we call tech support all the time. People do this all the time,
true.
and it's completely fine. Why wouldn't you be able to call an organizational specialist to come into your house to help you organize if that wasn't something that was your specialty? Right.
Right.
So it's like, I think we just have, like, you're not going to always fix all the plumbing in your house. You're going to call a plumber. I think there's things that we associate with we should be able to pull ourselves up by our bootstrings to be able to do. And I like this idea of saying, just like I would call tech support, I would call organizational support, or just like I would call, somebody to come in to deal with some kind of leak in my house, I might call somebody in to make sure that the floors are cleaned. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I just think that this idea of, if we need this support, now maybe you're a plumber and you don't need that, right? That's great. Then fine.
Yeah,
But
like we don't spend any
um,
money on tech
tech
support because
support, because
I do that.
you right, you build computers and you like set up the networks and you do all the things, right? So it's interesting. I felt like that was such a great thing for me to realize too, from looking at it from a parenting point of view. And she talks about in this chapter this idea of taking a marathon view with parenting. And I'm sure with
Mm,
parenting ourselves, we should be thinking about it the same way. Like, this is a marathon, not a sprint. You're not going to
yeah.
fix all these things all at once. You really have to, like, as she says, like, take aim one thing at a time. And one thing she said in the chapter, which I kind of think would work for like parenting your inner child or your kid, is like writing down everything that's an issue. Like, just write it all out and then like pick one thing, for this week or this month or whatever it is that you're going to focus on, because you just can't do it all at once. You can't fix all the things all at once. It's like trying to start, a diet routine with a,
Yep.
or an eating routine with a workout routine with a whatever, like it's just, a housekeeping routine or whatever. Like, you're not going to do all of it all at once.
Yeah, and that's like what I did this last couple of days. I got, or maybe it was just yesterday.
Mm.
Oh, whatever. But the last few days, they've all been a blur, people. I was like, I just got up, I was in bed, and I was trying to decide like what should I do today, and then I had written down like a bunch of different tasks that I had to accomplish in the house, and then I looked at like what's gonna be the most meaningful to me right now.
Mm.
And the most meaningful to me in that moment was like getting our bedroom quiet.
Mm.
And so I had put up all this the I was waiting for some curtains to come in. And so, oh, by the way, Michelle, the curtains are the wrong size. Oh, I should have measured. I'm like, oh, it's fine. Anyways, so the curtains came in, and so like I knew like, hey, if I can get these curtains up, that's gonna make it a lot cooler in this house room, because like we don't have AC here, and it was like we're having a heat wave right now. So I put those up, and then I went through and like one day, and then the next day I went through and like just brought a trash bag in, got all the trash out, cleaned up everything, got a container, and like put everything into the container that does not belong in that room, because we had like had stuff in our bags that we had taken to the temporary lodging that had ended up in our bedroom. we brought a brand new, a different set of drawers in that was not originally, it was like our receiving table. It wasn't like our actual drawer. So I had all the receiving table stuff. So like there's all this different stuff that just didn't belong in there. So I just like literally took it all and put it in one container and then got it out of the room. And then I told Brian afterwards, I'm like, okay, not right now, but at some point I need you to go into the bedroom and tell me how awesome I did. Cause I need the external validation.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
so, and then I got it done and like it just felt so much better going to bed the next night and
Mm.
that night. And then like, and Brian was excited. He's like, oh my gosh, our bedroom looks so much better. And so like, just like these little things of like, you're right, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Like even as an adult, it's like looking at taxes, or like Brian's starting school now and it's like, look, your grade, your classes are not a marathon. They're a marathon. They're not a sprint. You're not going to get it all done in one day. So you have to just
Mhm.
do it over time. And I think that's like what school and college is supposed to teach us. But if
Mhm.
you're ADHD or if you're neurodivergent, like it's a
Yeah.
lifelong challenge.
Yeah, and I think as a parent, this idea that things are going to be different as they change ages, but it's still like somehow you're supposed to have already figured it out right when that
Mm,
develop, because you can almost see it. At least for me, I could see it in Josh. It was like you saw something turning on in their brain when
yeah.
they got different cognitive abilities, right? Or physical abilities. I mean, the physical were easy to see. They start walking or they start, being able to open a door and you're like, oh, hi. Whatever it is that because one day they can't, the next day they do. And,
Yeah.
and you don't always know when that's going to happen. But the emotional stuff that they go through and sort of the cognitive stuff they're going through, it's like you're supposed to have figured it out already or something, or
Mm,
know how to do it. And I think this idea of like we have these sort of, she calls it like gremlins in your head, but the bullying of ourselves, whether it's bullying our
the
inner
drill
child
sergeant.
or the drill sergeant or whatever, that this idea that you're supposed to have done this or you should have done this or whatever it is, all the shoulds that we keep talking about, that really just saying no, like just reframing that to say that just doesn't, that's not reasonable. That's not a, that doesn't help. Like
And
just let that go, right?
yeah, and like on our last podcast, we were talking about sensory processing disorder, and
Yeah.
the person that we were seeing that like checklist from said that these issues can occur in children when they're extreme, and
Mm,
they don't seem age appropriate. And I
mm,
think I mean, honestly, like I feel like that's a lot of the shoulding is like, okay,
mm-hmm.
you're supposed to meet this milestone,
Yeah.
and when your kid is not meeting the milestone, that's when people freak out. And like,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm 44 years old and I still have meltdowns, people. And I think everyone probably would still have a meltdown, but like, we just deal
Mm-hmm.
with it differently. And so it's like, it does feel like it's not age appropriate. And then as a kid, like when I did do stuff like that and I saw people's faces of like, I'm not supposed to be doing that. That's when I would like beat myself up and be like, oh, I'm not supposed to be doing that. Like I knew I was wrong or it was wrong. I perceived it as it was wrong.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even though you're not physically telling me like, Megan, what you're doing is wrong, I am perceiving by everybody that I am wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the worry also translates to the kids. Like
Mm-hmm.
us worrying doesn't help them, right? Like us being, as parents, being like, oh my God, I don't know if you're going to make it. I don't know if you're going to be okay. I don't know if you're, like that's, of course, you internalize that. And I think that was something I was really having to think about with Josh going to college this next year, is checking myself and being like,
Mm.
okay, how, I mean, I have seen him in action. I have seen him be the yearbook editor. I have seen him take responsibility when he knows it's his to take. I've
Yeah.
also seen him when he doesn't think it's his responsibility go, meh. But I'm like, hey, maybe that's a good quality. Maybe I should have
Yes.
done that more, right? Like I look
Yeah.
at it and go like, does it mean he never will? No. And so I think it's also this idea of really believing in our kids and our kids' ability to be intelligent beings that can navigate these things, and they will fail,
Yeah.
and you will have to watch them fail. And that is so painful
And
sometimes.
that's when you learn the most, is when you
It
fail.
is
Like that's
when you
the
learn the
best
most.
time.
Yes. Yes.
And like I want to be very like I want to like point this out, that like I think what I'm going to say may not be something that sounds kind.
Okay.
So I don't know if this is going to hit you at all, and I just want to be clear. But
Okay.
like when you tell a kid, I'm just saying you in general, that's why I'm prefacing this. But like when you tell it, when you're worried about a kid,
Mm-hmm.
my initial instinct of like, okay, you're worried about me. So what are you telling me subconsciously?
Yeah.
You're
I'm not
telling me
capable.
I'm not capable.
Yeah.
That I don't have the ability, that like that I will never succeed. And
Mm-hmm.
that's that can be crushing at times.
Absolutely. And I really realized that we had a few conversations. I think we took 2 weeks off because we were kind of in it. And we've had that happen a couple, like the book before as well, where we just needed a little break from
Yeah.
not each other, but just like a little like, okay, let's reframe this and give me time to process too, or you time to process something. But for me, it was me this time. And I realized I'm like, what am I worried about with him? And I'm like, oh, he's saying he wants to be a doctor. And I know, because I'm in the academic world, what that means. And I know this kid is so brilliant, is so amazing, and he is a history major. Like in my mind, I'm like, you have read history books, you have eaten history books for breakfast since you were 5. Couldn't stop him. Couldn't
Yeah.
stop him from watching Discovery History Channel, whatever that is. Nothing. I mean, he would read entire books about presidents. He would read entire books. That's who he is. So
Yeah.
he's saying, oh, I want to be a doctor. And we have fought, and you have been there when we have, over math for so many. I mean, he talks about it as it is sandpaper on his brain. He didn't enjoy chemistry. He hasn't even taken physics yet, because he
Yep.
didn't want to. And I'm like, okay, MCAT, like this is crazy. Not to say you wouldn't be a great doctor. He'd be a great doctor. I mean, he'd be amazing. He'll be great at whatever he wants to do. I just was thinking about him going through this and what that was going to be like. And so we were sitting having Chinese food, and I remember just saying to him, I'm like, listen, I just want you to pick whatever it is you're interested in, right? Whatever it is you love to do. But I also want you to really like be okay with the fact that you don't have to be a doctor. You don't have to make some incredible amount of money or whatever it is you think you have to do. You don't have to be in STEM just because both your parents are in STEM. Like, you get to be you. And it's more important for me that you pick and do the things that your brain just does anyway. Like, it does it, you can't help it. Pick something like that, because that's going to make your life so much easier, so much better. I said, I picked something that was physics, right? And I all still to this day, like, look at it and go, why would I have done that? I'm a communicator. Like, this is what I do. I mean, I'm sitting here talking on this podcast, right?
You
Yeah.
said like, I wanted to find the hardest thing possible.
Well,
You
I did.
told me that.
I did, but I also wanted to connect with our dad. And he was in STEM, right? And so that was
Interesting.
how I understood to connect, right? And so it was interesting, but it was not me.
No, it wasn't.
I mean, I am an artist. I am somebody who does flit around a bit myself, and I enjoy that.
Wait.
Yes.
Wait. I'm sorry. I have to stop everything for just a second, because it is 4:43 in the afternoon on March 21st. And Michelle used the word flit for herself.
Yeah.
That's like the first time.
Yeah, and I do enjoy that part of my brain, and so that's
a big deal.
Okay.
It's really like exciting that like you're like, no, I'm sorry. It's like lovely that like you're like owning and accepting yourself. Does that make sense? Like, you're just like lovely, artistically beautiful human. And I mean, and you're also Aunt Mimi. So like, you both can be true. But like, I think the way you go about it is so beautiful. And like, I'm like loving the fact that like you're recognizing that. It's beautiful to me.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you
I'm
saying that.
sorry if I caught you off guard, but it's just really cool to hear.
I think what it is when you say it that way, you laugh
Mm.
and it feels like you're teasing me.
Ah,
Hmm.
gotcha. I apologize for laughing. No, I think it is absolutely beautiful.
So I took me a long time to come back to the art because undergrad was so grueling
Yeah.
and I I don't think it is that way for everyone, but for me it was a very very difficult major. Um and it required a certain part of my brain to really develop, and it was difficult, right? And I enjoy the discipline of it. I like the challenge of it, but
Mm.
it really caused me to have to cut out this whole other part of myself. And so coming back to that artistic, flitty kind of part of me, um, is it was really important, and it's been so. I started painting again when we moved to Japan, and
Mm-hmm.
I was teaching there, and I started teaching math, which I had never taught before, and it was very stressful um, to try to figure out, uh, you know, really how to teach a language is what it is, but
Yeah.
and do it in a way that I thought was going to actually connect with students, because I had trouble connecting with math um,
Mm.
unless it was applied. And even when it was applied, sometimes it was difficult for me because I am dyslexic, so I flip things a lot. And so I really identify with my students a lot, and I'm able to have those conversations, and I think I'm where I'm at professionally for a reason.
Mm.
Um, but because I can connect and understand what it's like to feel really frustrated about something, and be really brilliant and a bit have abilities in other ways, but that's just not the easiest one for me. So I think one of the things that is important, and I really actually don't know where I was going with any of this because I got completely
I'm
derailed
so
by
sorry.
whatever it is you said. I'm so sorry. I think I'm
No,
gonna
it's
just have to
okay.
pause for a second.
No, I mean, first off, I do want to apologize again for like I recognize that like it I recognize that like I deal with my stuff through laughter, but it's not necessarily the way that you do. And so you were being vulnerable, and it's I have to shift gears, and so I do apologize for that. Um and it I think you were talking about Josh and about him going to become a doctor, and
Yeah.
how like he doesn't have to go down that rabbit hole. I remember like I mean remember Michelle, like I thought I was going to go into calculus my freshman
Hmm.
year because I was like, yeah, I know how to do this, and then it's like having to actually get there and do it. You're like, oh, that's a whole other thing. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I was talking with Josh and we were having this conversation at this little Chinese place, which was terrible. We didn't like it. But anyway, I
mm,
remember sitting there with them and just telling them like you can do whatever you want to do. I mean, you can still become a doctor, right? But like
yeah,
major in something, you have 4 years. And it's only 4 years in your life really where you're going to just get to do what you want to do.
yeah,
And we have money set aside for you. We're very lucky and blessed in that way, that you can go do this. You don't have to have a full-time job while you're doing it. I worked many hours a week going through college, and you'll be able to so pick something you're really gonna like. And I remember he sat across from me. It was so cute, and he goes he goes, well, if I can be honest, I just want to be an AP history teacher. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I
that
just
is the
kind of
cutest
fell,
thing ever.
I just sort of fell forward, like, oh, thank God. And I said, just because the thought of him having this sandpaper in his brain for four
Yes,
years and doing this thing that just is so, it requires him to be perfect.
yeah,
And he's perfectly imperfect, but he is not a perfect student. And I see doctors, burning out and all these things. I don't like the way they do it. I think it's unfortunate. They miss out on a lot of great caregivers that would be amazing because of the way they go through this. But what they have to do to become a doctor is, to me, brutal. Insane. And it's brutal.
With AI, being a doctor is not the same lucrative career it used to be.
It's possible, right?
No, I've been listening to people talking about like any kind of, MD specialty. Like a lot of them are like, they're getting these really, really big loans that they have to pay off. And then they're, they say like, oh, you're supposed to get at least $100,000 a year. And so, they're getting a job, but they're only getting 70. Like, when does the $100,000 come into play? And they're just not getting paid the same way they used to be. And it's like a very real thing that's happening right now. And oh my gosh, he'd be the best AP history teacher
He would be.
ever.
He would be. Yeah. So we talked about like, well, you are going to have to think about investing or whatever, right? But like, because you don't get paid much, but also you don't need that much to live on. Whatever. He'll figure that piece out because he's also Michael P. Keaton from Family Ties. If no one's seen that before, just look it up on YouTube or something. It's Michael J. Fox, one of his first roles. Very good. Anyway, Michelle, point being, it was really a great conversation. And it really was because of the conversations we've been having about parenting to say, what is it I'm worried about? Like, why am I'm disproportionately worried right now, right? Like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, going to college is a worry, but compared to like who he is and who I know he is, why am I worried? And then I was like, because I was worried he wasn't honoring who he was and saying, you're doing something for someone else. You're doing for whatever reason, right? Like I was doing physics because of our dad. He's doing this because of either his parents or because of who he currently works for, or because he's working with a doctor right now, whatever it is, it's like, but who are you? And what do you just do well anyway? And maybe that's a great place to start thinking about a major, because you're going to do it regardless. You're going to learn about it. You're going to learn about you can't get him to stop talking about politics and history. Yeah. So he's not going to have trouble studying for it. So if somebody's ADHD, if they're not interested in it, they should not pick that as a major.
Yeah.
Because they won't focus on it.
That was the good thing about going into theater. Like I was really interested in it. So I got through, and I wouldn't have if I had picked something else.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think you had that freedom or felt that freedom, and maybe mom was part of that. I don't know. Or you were just, that's what you wanted to do and you stuck with it. I don't know. But
no, she always told me if you don't go into the arts, it'll be a waste. She always told me that. And I think that was like, the thing is like, I never felt pressure to go into STEM.
Anything else.
I think I probably would have been really good at STEM had I been, over time. But like, I didn't feel pressured. I mean, I guess the other thing is like, I didn't go into acting because I didn't have enough confidence. That's what I really wanted to do. So I went into the tech side of it thinking, okay, well, at least I'll get the technical part of it. And, that wasn't really what I wanted to do, but it also wasn't as scary.
Yeah.
Michelle, I just think it's just an observation that I was having that like, what a beautiful moment that you gave him. It's like, you were talking about like the sandpaper on his brain and I don't know, it just made me kind of
his words. Yeah.
Yeah. But it also made me think about like, gosh, that must've been hard for you when you were going through physics. Like maybe it wasn't full sandpaper, but maybe it was a little rough, and like, it just, I can just picture this moment between you and Josh, and you're like, look, buddy, like I went like, I like went through all this and I did all this so that you could have it better than me. So go have it better than me.
Go have a fun, good, enjoyable time and enjoy what you're studying. And but
what
it's
a beautiful
interesting
gift, Michelle.
Yeah. It was really nice. And I think for me, what I realized was it wasn't, the issue really was around being surrounded by people whose EQ was quite low. Their emotional intelligence was quite low. And so I was surrounded by people like that all the time. And so that's the sandpaper for me, wasn't the content. The content was very interesting to me, but the people, and that's why I didn't stay for my master's. It was difficult for me to want to engage because I was around people who were difficult for me to be around. And so that was kind of the story there. But also, I think I would have just had so much fun. I would have had much more fun being a political science major, or have been a communications major, or had been, any of those things. I would have been around people who were more like me. And so I think that would have been really, really nice. But also for him, it's like, just go learn what you do well, especially if you're ADHD, and then go for it. 'Cause you're going to go down every rabbit hole with that with ease, as opposed to it being difficult. Coming back
it
to the
wasn't
book,
difficult for me. Sorry. It wasn't difficult for me to like do pad stitching. I absolutely enjoyed it. Like, cause it was just fun to like figure out the rhythm of it. Like we were talking about the eye hand coordination, right? Like I loved going down and like just doing these beautiful stitches. And like my tailoring teacher was like, these are the most beautiful and like symmetrical stitches I've ever seen. And I was like, I know.
I'm so good.
I didn't have that much confidence, but yeah, I do now. I'm like, that's true.
That's so cool. I love it. Yeah, I think you always I felt like had the most practical major also. I always say that. I loved your major. I think like the idea as a parent though is this idea that if you're starting to feel this stress or this anxiety, it's to kind of like take a look at it. Like what's the worry coming from? Because and it was nice to be able to have that conversation with him. I think also though the worry can kind of stretch you really thin. She talks about this like rubber band there, example of like when you stretch a material like a rubber band beyond its elasticity point, it no longer keeps its elasticity, right? So you stretch it and it breaks. And the idea of like putting the oxygen mask on yourself first, that's self-care. And I think even for, when we're doing parenting our inner child, I mean, it makes sense as well. Like even this house thing you're talking about, I love that you're like making your list and kind of trying to quash the gremlin, the drill sergeant, the shoulds, because you got to do that, right?
Yeah, and like just what do I need right now? Like taking care of that. Like I took care of the bedroom, and then like I said, okay, well I really need something for the dog. So like I figured the dog stuff out, and then now I'm probably gonna go to the bathroom because that's the next section. So it's like just taking it and like instead of figuring out like, oh, I have to have my I used to always set up Brian's office first and I would save mine for last. And, I think at some point you were like, Megan, you should do yours first, and so it's just like kind of starting to fit into me of like, I didn't even realize I was doing it, but it's like, I'm instinctually trying to take care of myself in this process. I wouldn't have said that's what I was doing, but I actually am like, okay, my bedroom is a mess and like I need to figure out that, and okay, I can't physically walk into the door because I had to move everything, so let me figure that out, and so it's like just I'm taking care of things that are going to make my day-to-day life easier, and I don't think I would have done that before.
So cool. And I think when they always said like as a parent, like when the baby sleeps you sleep, like do those dishes really need to get done today, or is sleep more important? That you need to keep doing those like date night things. I know you and Brian do that so cute all the time. And like, keeping yourself sort of fed, right? And literally and figuratively, like you got to keep yourself. And it was interesting because we have this thing called Move Arizona. And so little teams get put together, and Cheryl, my dear friend at work, she puts a team. We're called the Pi-destrians, P-I, just so you know.
That's good.
But anyway, I had started walking again. I haven't walked in like a year, I think. And I had been walking regularly every morning and just getting that sunshine and going out and doing that for myself. And Josh and I went to the gym last night together. So I said, hey, let's go.
I saw that you had an inside walk. And I was like, I wonder what that was about.
Oh, yeah. So we went together and that was really great. And I think just making those times, because it is every age with parenting has its own challenges. And especially, when they're babies, it's like, okay, sorry. Unless you have a night nurse, and God love you. And, but yes, like go ahead, give the baby to the parents, the grandparents if you can, or, get that little bit. You'll never get your sleep back, but you'll at least, kind of keep it at bay.
Feel
But
normal.
yeah, a little bit of it. But I do feel like that idea of just really taking that moment to say, like, what is it I need today? And at least giving yourself 5 or 10 minutes of it. If that's all you can do, right?
You're
Extra 5 minutes
reminding
in the
me.
car before you go inside the house or go pick up the kid out of
Yeah.
daycare or whatever it is. If you can give yourself those little moments, I think it really helps.
And you're reminding me, like, so remember, like, when you guys were setting things up and then Heather knocked over a puzzle and she was like super worried
Mm,
because it's like a really hard
yeah.
puzzle. It's like a
Yeah.
puzzle that's made of out of wood and it's called the devil puzzle. So like and I have another one that's like a difficult puzzle, but this was like devil puzzle is
The
the
devil.
hardest.
Oh no,
And so
poor
she felt
Heather.
so terrible. I remember hearing you say, "Don't worry, Megan's gonna love the fact that she has to do it," and it's totally true. I was like, "Okay, I'll start working on it." And the irony of it all, Michelle, is that
Hmm.
I've been working on it little by little this past week, and it's like
Mm.
kind of been that little moment of like, okay, there I can control this. And it
Mm.
allows me to like have something where I can kind of like put some control to it without it being like without it being I don't know, it just gives me that like when I feel out of control in my house, it gives something to make me feel like I'm in control.
Yeah, that's so nice. And I want to like circle back to the control piece of it because I think sort of midway through this podcast or just like in the last like 10 minutes we were talking and you were kind of um noting that I was like flitting around and you like wanted to make this big deal about this time stamp of like when I admitted that I flitted around. And I think it's important like as we discover who we are and as we come to those sort of conclusions for ourselves, um just that we like I don't know. For me it's like giving myself that grace that that's that's true or whatever, but it's also like sometimes it's hard, and I think you've been so good at being vulnerable and I'm working on that. It's not easy for me. And so
Yeah.
like even in this podcast I think I've shared a little bit more about myself every time. Um but I think you take it if there's an observation about you, you're so used to being observed
Yeah.
and people noting things about you and saying things about you and ever since you were little, right? This is
Hmm.
right or wrong or whatever. And I think it's good for me to have that little bit of feeling of it, of the uncomfortableness of it, of what it might have felt like for you as a kid. I don't know. We're very different people, but at the same time, it did feel uncomfortable just then, and I was having an emotional reaction to it, and I don't want to cut it out. I just it felt uh, hard, but I can only imagine that that is true for anybody who's trying to like unmask parts of themselves. And I think for
Yeah.
me, the part I had to try to unmask was the artistic part of me. Because that wasn't something that I perceived was acceptable for a woman in STEM. And I
Mm.
wasn't allowed to be a woman in STEM and to be an artist and to be logical and to flit around and to, I wasn't like, able to have all those parts of me. So I think when you were kind of like putting a big siren on it as only you can, in that
Sorry.
moment, it felt like it felt so vulnerable, and
Yeah.
and yet I know there's so many people who are listening right now that are like, yeah, Michelle, that's like our whole damn life. And so I just wanted to kind of circle back to that to say like how hard it is, I think, for anybody who is either unmasking or really doesn't understand their kid, right?
Hmm.
Like, and what they're going through. Um, and there's a lot of things I don't always understand about what you're going through, and we talk about those things too, but there are things I do understand, and understanding that that's part of me as well. And so if you have a kid who has complex issues, you might have complex issues, or someone
Yeah.
you married or partnered with or procreated with might have complex issues, right?
It's
So,
genetic most of the time.
or the donor, whoever, whatever it is, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's lots of ways things happen, or maybe who you adopted from. But I look at it and think about it for myself that this journey isn't just yours, it's also mine, but that it is definitely newer for me, I think, in terms of being vulnerable about it.
And I think that's the shift that I'm having to make like I realized that when you mentioned that, that I was teasing you and I was like, "Oh, right." Like for me, people might listen to us like when you and I giggle about certain things, like that's just how I take it cuz like that's been my go-to. And it hit me that I was like, "Oh, right, she is being vulnerable." And like it didn't occur to me that was you being vulnerable in that moment, but then when you told me it was like, "Oh, right." Right.
Well, I didn't
And
think it was me being vulnerable. Actually,
yeah.
I think that I flit around. So that's why I just was like
I
shocked
do.
about that because I paint all the time and I'm flitting while I paint.
But
So
I
think it was more.
you've never used the word flit before. And I think also I realized like that was probably also like I might have been teasing a little bit actually now that I think about it because like that was a word you used to use with me and not like a positive way. It was like Megan, you're flitting around, And so I was like, oh my God, like I'm not the only one who flits around, And so I think there was a little bit of teasing. You're right. I need to own that. Cause like,
Okay.
I will own it.
Thanks.
I wasn't like, it wasn't intentional. And when I realized I did it and it wasn't good, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I gotta reel that back in. I mean, even, we're all fallible, but
We're
like,
sisters. We're sisters.
sisters.
The sisters comes
Get
out
in
sometimes.
real time, people.
And I think for me, the part that I'm working on, like in EMDR, just for full transparency to everyone, is figuring out where my boundaries are and when I'm feeling something, saying it, because that's been sort of new for me. And the other thing is staying in my body while I'm saying it. Like,
yeah.
I felt myself physically moving away from the camera and not wanting to engage with you. And I had to like will myself back into my body because I will dissociate and I will just go away because it's emotionally too hard, whatever that feeling is. Cause I was angry at you. Like I was feeling really frustrated and I didn't want to be publicly frustrated. Right. So it was like, we're getting into a sister spat basically, right? It's like, oh, well, like that kind of a thing. And I was like, okay, wait, try to be professional, try to be on this, podcast. And so I felt myself physically going away. And so like part of what I'm practicing is like coming back, re-engaging, not leaving. So it was good for me that I did that, but it's definitely tough for sure. And I imagine many people, have their own version of whatever that is for them. Right. And so I think it's a good thing to walk through together.
It is. And I really appreciate it. Like, just like I really appreciated you saying, hey, I'm having some anxiety about you coming to your house. Like, just because like I have an issue doesn't mean that like I should be tiptoed around. And so it really does help me to know like when I'm overstepping. Cause like sometimes I just don't realize it. And so when I made aware of it, like, okay, I'm going to take steps to address it. But yeah, it's so helpful. And I think that's, part of it is like, especially as your kids are getting older, like, I know you can't do this when they're younger, but like, as they're getting older and hopefully you're having like an adult relationship with them, it's so important that like you show them exactly how, like, model for them, like what you would want as well, because it's like it's so helpful when you tell me. It's so helpful. And like I know it's really hard for you, but like I'm gonna keep reminding you like how awesome it is, because it's like, keep doing it. It makes it so much easier for me, because then I don't have to like try to figure it out.
And I think it's also difficult, I think, when you have been bullied, and our kids who have complex issues tend to have been bullied, that I think sometimes especially if it's someone who was bullying you, which I think that's part of what you're talking about, is that I bullied you at times. And so there's that dynamic that still has to get worked out. There's still little potholes that, even though we've like kind of made this roadway together of communication, there's this like we hit along bumps sometimes of like past stuff, right? And
Yeah.
that like flit word, I wouldn't have even remembered I used that word with you, but you do. And so that memory is coming up for you, right? When I'm saying that and you're like, "Oh, wait a minute. That like, that neural pathway is strong. I remember that." And
Yeah.
and so you have to figure out, okay, well, yeah, you're going to have to repair some things, along the way because things happened. And even if you don't remember them as a parent or you don't remember them as a sibling, doing those things necessarily, it doesn't matter. It's real. So I think it's kind of both ways where it's like, how to have to be okay that the bump is going to be there and you can still work through it. It
Yeah,
doesn't
I'd like
have
to
to it doesn't have to become this giant deal
thing.
either.
Yeah.
Right? It's just
'Cause
like, oh
like,
yeah, that happened and let's work through it.
yeah, because I think in the past, like we would have probably like gone away and it would have been awkward and tense, and then come back to it and had a whole conversation. So it's like lovely that we can actually talk about it even right now. Because like kind of going back to what we were talking about at the very beginning of the podcast, that we're always trying to like be more transparent. And I've had people tell me like, oh, you guys are so great as sisters, and I wish I had a sister, and I'm like, okay, yeah, it's great, but it's also really hard at times. Okay. So like, no, it's not just like
Yeah.
all, peaches and roses all the time. It's like, it
Yeah.
can be challenging. And I think it's super important that like we are honest about that. Now, there are some things we're not going to air. There's been 2 episodes we will never
Yeah.
air, but
Right. Yeah.
because it's not productive. But I think like,
Right.
I do appreciate that we're able to talk about it and work through it. And, it's,
Well,
and
I
I think it's,
credit us being able to work through this with all the work you've done emotionally and all the work I've done
yeah,
emotionally. And, the EMDR work that I'm doing is so powerful for me personally. And I couldn't have, I think even 6 months ago, we would have had to pause and I would have
yeah,
had to go away and I couldn't have come back as quickly. So learning how to like feel something in real time, manage it, and like stay with it for me is what I've
yeah.
had to work on. And so it was interesting though, because I was watching a podcast with Anderson Cooper and Sarah Bareilles. He does a whole podcast, I guess, around grief, which is really interesting. And he did one with Stephen Colbert, I guess, that
Yeah, I heard about that one.
Sarah Bareilles listened to, and she created all her new album
Oh,
around
wow.
like, or one of the songs at least around that, called Home. So I encourage anyone to go
Oh,
listen to it, and I dare you not to cry. But it's a beautiful, beautiful song. And Anderson Cooper in the middle of this podcast starts weeping.
mm,
And they kind of come to this point of he was trying to decide, was he going to keep it in or wasn't he? And he kept it in. And it's
good.
very soulful and lovely and real. And I think it hit me when I watched that this morning, actually, because I was, whatever, chopping vegetables and doing my thing. And this idea that we really want to be seen and we want to be heard in our lives, and we want things that are real. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that hit me, that this moment itself for me was real, right? And it doesn't necessarily look pretty or look anyway. And I think he said in his podcast, he's like, and of course I'm worried about what I'm going to look like to everyone else. And of course
Yeah.
we all are, right? And I think that's one of the gifts you've given in this podcast is you tend to not care. And I love that. And I
Yeah.
strive to be more like it, because you do live in this very present way. And I think a lot of people who have complex issues are that way. And the rest of us are just trying to get back to that.
Yeah, and I really do appreciate that you're being more vulnerable, which is so so lovely. And I think it also is a great reminder that like just because, us neurodivergent people also need to repair and need to
Mm-hmm.
be given the opportunity to repair. So like, I know I've heard in the past, like you've said certain things, like you said phrases similar to something of, like I can't be having a bad day because it requires he requires me to like always be on good days, like, or it's just much harder. And it's like, I think that's the part for me that I appreciate, is that like, I have to learn how to deal with people who are having bad days or who are having difficult moments. And it's so important that like you're able to, with me at least, in our relationship, that we can say, hey, that wasn't so easy. That was tough. Or like, I didn't like that. And it forces me to have to look at it and say, okay, well, what did I do? And like, where am I at on that? So I do appreciate that.
Absolutely. And I think in terms of the parenting part, I think it becomes more that way as they get older.
Yeah.
Right. That you can have and should probably, I think, why wouldn't you show your sorrow or that you're navigating through emotions, because that helps them model for them that it's okay for them to have emotions, and that there are, that you can talk about these things in relationships, and get through them. So I really appreciate our conversation today. And I appreciate all those of you who are listening and give us the freedom to do this, right? It's like, It's such a gift every time. And this time,
that you guys want to keep
different.
coming back to listen,
I know
it's so exciting. And
we love it. We love getting to do it. And again, we really appreciate all the feedback you guys give us on this. And this will be no exception.
Yep.
Love you.
Absolutely. I love you too.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to the Spicy Brain Podcast, brought to you by Spicy Brain Studios. This week, we talked about where do I start, and the reminder that you can do it all, but just not at the same time. Little by little, everybody. Next week, we're moving into the next chapter of why can't they just? You know those moments that we've all had as parents where you think, why can't they just listen? Just do the thing. Just try a little harder. So we're going to gently unpack that question, and we're going to look at what might really be going on underneath it all. But until then, make sure to follow us or subscribe on your favorite podcast app. And if you're enjoying the show, please leave a message or a rating. It really does help NeuroSpicy folks find us and come and be joining with this whole community. Okay, but until then, here is to a great end of the week. And remember to stay curious
and joyful
with a whole lot of radical acceptance. High kick. Just going to keep changing it just for fun.
Love it.
Silly voices.